Of the four methods of takeoffs available to the AV8B pilot, vertical, rolling vertical, short, and conventional, the short takeoff is the most versatile and can be used for the widest variety of takeoff weights, field elevation, pressure, and temperature ranges. The biggest challenge in executing a short takeoff is knowing where to put those nozzle things. Too far forward, and the aircraft never accelerates fast enough to take off. Too far aft, and the aircraft gets airborne, but only after a long run down the runway. A takeoff hardly worthy of a jump jet. The by-the-book short takeoff procedure starts the takeoff run with the nozzles aft. Then, at a pre-calculated airspeed, rotates the nozzles forward to a pre-calculated angle. Now, the same book gives pilots the note that setting the nozzles to 10 degrees will prevent excessive wear on the tailplane and flaps due to the heat and jet efflux acting on those control surfaces. But as of publication of this video, this effect does not appear to be modeled in DCS World. So if you want to, you can start with those nozzles full out. Your choice. Now, where does one get those pre-calculated values? Referring to the NATOPS flight manual performance charts for the AV8B, we first take our ambient air temperature and engine hover performance relative to the 0% datum, and we now have all the parameters needed to execute a short takeoff. Alternatively, we can find the same information inside the cockpit. Go to an MPCD, bring up the VRES page, then the short takeoff or stow subpage, and here we can find the nozzle rotation airspeed and nozzle angle setting for wet and dry takeoffs for the current outside air temperature, altimeter setting, field elevation, and gross weight of the aircraft. Now there's a lot more data and other features of the VRES page which we're not going to go into in this video, but I wanted to point out the ground roll distance calculation here. For just about any takeoff from any field of any terrain in DCS, a pilot of even the most fully loaded Harrier isn't going to be worried about runway length. But knowing ground roll distance becomes very important when looking at takeoff performance from carriers. If you're into that sort of thing. Now that we've got our takeoff parameters, it's time to take off. Next, we're going to execute our takeoff checklist. The takeoff checklist has two parts, the 1 finger and the 2 or 5 finger checks. These checks are called finger because they're initiated and confirmed by the pilot with extended fingers. The 1 finger check is our configuration check. First, we'll set the nozzle rotation airspeed to the value we calculated previously in the Dash 400, or from the VRES page right here inside the cockpit. To set the nozzle rotation airspeed, press the VSTOL Master Mode button, ensure nozzle rotation airspeed is selected, then enter the airspeed value on the upfront control. Next, we're going to set the pitch carets to an angle of 14 degrees, but this is bugged in the stable version of DCS World, so we need to enter 6 to get the pitch carets where we want them. Next, we'll set the stow stop to the calculated nozzle angle by setting the stow stop lever on the throttle quadrant just shy of the nozzle angle setting. We'll set trim to the takeoff value of 0 degrees. Set flaps to stole. Ensure the warning and caution lights are clear, except for Drew. And finally, ensure the anti-skid switch is on. 1 finger checks complete. Now we run our 2 or 5 finger checks to check engine, flaps, and nozzle. We're doing a dry takeoff today, so we'll execute the 2 finger check instead of a 5 finger. But the only difference is that with the 5 finger we would arm the water system. First, the engine acceleration check. On the engine page, press the Excel button to zero out the acceleration times. set and hold the wheel brakes. Run the engine up to 60% RPM. We're looking for an acceleration time of about 2.4 seconds, and at the inlet guide vane angles between 10 and 21 degrees. Engine check complete, we move the nozzle lever to our stow stop position, and check that the nozzles are set to where we wanted them, flaps have deployed, and the duct pressure is 45 psi or greater. We complete the two-finger by setting our nozzles to the takeoff setting of 10 degrees, or full aft. Your choice. For the takeoff roll, we'll apply full power and release the brakes at the first sign of a skid. We watch our airspeed and rotate the nozzle lever quickly back to the stow stop as soon as we reach the nozzle rotation airspeed. Keep the wings level, raise the gear, and pitch to put the witch's hat on the pitch carrots. Gradually rotate the nozzles aft to 25 degrees. Set the flaps to auto, and continue rotating the nozzles to full aft. Clear the power margin hexagon by reducing throttle. Now we make sure the water switch is off, in case we turn it on, and clear the stow stop lever by sliding it all the way back. And now we've just completed a by-the-book short takeoff.